In this podcast episode, Joe Tidy, a seasoned BBC journalist and author, delves deep into the shadowy world of teenage hackers, cybercrime gangs, and the evolving landscape of digital threats. The conversation spans from the notorious hacking collective known as Scattered Spider to the chilling story of Julius Kamaki, arguably the most hated hacker in history. Joe's insights provide a rare glimpse into the motivations, methods, and consequences of cybercrime, as well as the broader implications for society and cybersecurity. Joe begins by explaining the emergence of Scattered Spider, a loosely coordinated group of hackers primarily active in the UK and the US. Unlike traditional, highly organized cybercrime syndicates, Scattered Spider operates more like a collective of young, often teenage individuals who come together on platforms like Discord and Telegram. Their attacks have recently caused significant disruption to major UK retailers such as Marks & Spencer, the Co-op, and even luxury retailer Harrods, as well as US retailers. These attacks typically involve ransomware, a form of malware that encrypts a victim's data and demands payment, usually in cryptocurrency, to restore access. Joe highlights that these young hackers are not motivated solely by financial gain, but also by the allure of fame and infamy, a shift largely influenced by social media platforms like Twitter. The culture of clout chasing has transformed hacking from a niche technical pursuit into a chaotic, often destructive form of digital notoriety. This shift has been accelerated by the rise of cryptocurrencies, which provide an anonymous and untraceable means of monetizing cybercrime, making it easier for these groups to profit from their attacks. The discussion moves to the practicalities of how these hackers infiltrate large organizations. Joe dispels the Hollywood myth of hackers furiously typing code to break into systems, explaining that most breaches start with social engineering, tricking employees into giving up access credentials. For example, attackers might impersonate staff members calling the IT help desk to reset passwords. Once inside, they exploit vulnerabilities to spread ransomware throughout the network, crippling operations and causing chaos, such as empty supermarket shelves or disrupted logistics. Joe stresses that despite the sophistication of some attacks, many rely on exploiting basic security lapses like weak passwords or outdated software. He advocates for simple but effective measures, such as using password managers and keeping software updated to reduce vulnerability. Beyond financial cybercrime, Joe exposes the darker, more disturbing aspects of the hacker subculture. He describes sextortion, a form of harassment where criminals trick victims into sending explicit images and then extort them by threatening to release the images publicly. This practice is prevalent within the broader online delinquent community known as the COM, which includes thousands of mostly young males engaging in various forms of cyber nastiness. One particularly harrowing phenomenon Joe discusses is cut signs, where victims are coerced into self-harming by carving the names of their tormentors into their skin as a twisted form of devotion or submission. These acts underscore the psychological damage inflicted by some cybercriminals far beyond financial loss. Joe traces the typical trajectory of many teenage hackers, beginning with online gaming communities such as Minecraft or Fortnite. Initially, young players seek to gain advantages through cheats or exploits, which gradually leads them into hacking forums and eventually to more serious cybercrime activities. This progression from innocent gaming to malicious hacking is a well-documented pathway supported by research from law enforcement agencies. While Scattered Spider is notable for being English-speaking and based in Western countries, Joe explains that the largest and most organized cybercrime gangs operate out of Russia and Eastern Europe. These groups, often described as modern cartels, run highly sophisticated ransomware operations with specialized roles, from malware development to extortion negotiation. Joe sheds light on the tacit tolerance these gangs receive from their home countries, particularly Russia, where an unwritten rule forbids hacking domestic targets. This state of affairs complicates international law enforcement efforts. North Korea also features prominently as a state actor that uses cybercrime to generate revenue, notably through large-scale cryptocurrency thefts. Central to the episode is the story of Julius Kamaki, a notorious figure whose hacking career spans over a decade. Kamaki first came to public attention as part of the Lizard Squad, a teenage hacking gang responsible for a massive denial-of-service attack that took down Xbox Live and PlayStation Network during Christmas 2011. 4. Joe recounts his experience interviewing Kamaki, then a cocky teenager unafraid to show his face and voice on live television. Kamaki's criminal activities escalated over the years, culminating in the infamous Vastaamo hack in Finland, where he stole psychotherapy patient records, some of the most sensitive personal data imaginable. The breach exposed tens of thousands of vulnerable individuals, causing long-lasting psychological trauma and even suicides. Kamaki attempted to extort the company for hundreds of thousands of euros in Bitcoin, but when the ransom demands failed, he began releasing the data publicly, devastating victims. Joe details how Kamaki's operational security was notoriously poor, leading to his eventual arrest in Paris in 2024 after a domestic disturbance call. Despite his arrogance and lack of remorse, Kamaki was convicted and sentenced, though his prison term is relatively short. Joe reflects on Kamaki's psychology, describing him as a sociopath who seemed to revel in chaos and destruction. The episode also explores how cybersecurity firms and law enforcement agencies track down hackers. Despite their technical prowess, many cybercriminals make critical mistakes, such as accidentally uploading incriminating files or using identifiable email addresses. Following the money trail, especially cryptocurrency transactions, is a key investigative tool, though laundering methods complicate this. Joe shares anecdotes about the difficulties and dangers of investigating cybercrime, including his own experiences traveling to Russia to track down members of the Evil Core gang, led by Maxim Yakubets. The hostile environment and intimidation tactics faced by journalists and investigators underscore the risks involved in exposing these criminals. The conversation touches on the broader implications of cybercrime, including the potential risks posed by autonomous vehicles and emerging technologies like quantum computing. Joe warns that as society becomes increasingly dependent on interconnected systems, the stakes of cyber attacks rise dramatically. The prospect of quantum computers breaking current encryption standards, Q-Day, poses a looming threat to digital security worldwide. Despite these challenges, Joe emphasizes that many cyber attacks still exploit basic vulnerabilities, and improving fundamental cybersecurity hygiene remains the most effective defense. He advocates for widespread adoption of password managers, multi-factor authentication, and timely software updates.